Welcome back, everybody, to the FC Monmouth Podcast. I'm Chris Dailey, live from the college dorm here in Indiana, joined by my partner in crime, Lucas Francis. Lucas, how are you today?
What's up, Chris?
Dude, I'm doing good. I am super excited to be talking
Living
to
that
you.
college life.
Yeah, I am, sort of. I'm trying. No AC in here. It's a little hot right now. I have the fan. The fan's pumping. But without further ado, it's time to talk some blue and gold soccer. But before we do that, Lucas, I know it's your senior year at Ocean. Big senior night, a week ago, maybe a little less. Big season for the Ocean Township Spartans. So,
5-1.
yeah, how's that been going?
Dude, it's fun. It's just being a part of a team like that. It's just I don't know, it's just fun. You just feel like you're a family. Even if you don't talk outside of soccer or whatever, just the second you step in that locker room, it's just different.
How's practice like every single day? How tired are you after school?
Honestly, it's not that bad because the thing with high school is you're playing almost every other day. So the practices are actually kind of light.
Yeah.
Today we just played soccer tennis for 45 minutes, and that was the whole practice.
Yeah, honestly, that's actually pretty true. You play,
But then the days where it's hard, it's fun because everybody's tired together.
Amen, man. Suffering together, something about that. It's pretty beautiful. And yeah, as for me, for everybody listening in college, it's been a good start. I'm at Holy Cross College in Indiana, actually Notre Dame, so it's right across the street. If you look out this window right here, you could see the Golden Dome, which is pretty nice, or kind of see it once the leaves fall off. But yeah, college has been off to a great start, broadcasting, doing everything I tried to do with FC Monmouth out in college, but I am super excited to be back. Huge things for FC Monmouth. Obviously, the WPSL announcement was big, Lucas, but we're not really going to focus on that. That'll be another episode, maybe the next episode. I know we're also going to do a college update as well. But we like to focus on the league today for the boys' team, or the men's team, and it's so exciting. Lucas, when you got the initial kind of text from James, I mean, he was really sus, we had no clue. We were suspecting it the whole time. Yeah, very mysterious. But how excited are you now that it's official and FC Monmouth has joined a new startup league?
I think I'm really excited to see how it turns out. And honestly, new coach with the announcement of Hugh and Eric. No, not Eric. Sorry, Evan. It's exciting. New league, new coaches. I think it'll be good for us. And also, it's nice, too, to be part of, this little trailblazing league, trying to get rid of all the bads in U.S. soccer.
Yeah, I think what you said there, too. I mean, they're definitely in it for the right reasons, and you kind of notice that with a lot of these, just about every club in this league, 100%. They're all in it for the right reasons, and just to run down the list, there's a lot of California teams out on the West Coast, so many right in that, that California area. Some in Texas. FC Dallas U23s joining is huge. Tulsa Athletic, who won the National Premier Soccer League in 2023. They've had some big runs in the U.S. Open Cup. They're a part of the Central Conference. There's 4 current teams. It's still rounding out. There's been more. FC Wichita was added. And then for us in the East Conference, it's going to be fun with those away days, Lucas.
Yeah. I've heard really good things about Kingston Stockade. There's some people at Red Bull Arena. Very excited for that one. NY Braveheart out in Long Island. Strong Island, as they call it. Could be fun.
Yeah, I don't know what to expect because I never heard of Braveheart. That was the one team I was unfamiliar with. Of course, First State has been in the NPSL for a couple years now. Obviously, we know Monmouth. I mean,
Our old friends, Atlantic City.
Yeah, in Atlantic City. So that should be fun. And there's still more teams. We're going to figure that out. That's what we need to figure out today in the podcast when we interview
our predictions,
the owners down the line, or the founders of the league. Yeah, yeah, we need to find out what the deal is. Who's going to be joining us? We got to get the inside scoop. Maybe off the camera we could. But as for FC Monmouth, what are you looking for this year from an on-field performance-wise, and then also off the field? Obviously, with everything you do for the 732, if you're watching this, you probably know. If you're a first-timer, Lucas, founder of the 732, runs the supporters clubs, done some great things. So can you talk to me about that, both on and off?
I mean, as I said, just being in a new league, we're going to see some new teams that we've never played before. Never played Kingston before. Never played Braveheart. And it'll be nice just to see, like, what's sort of different almost. Like, I don't know what to expect. I can't wait to be surprised about what happens.
Yeah, and then off the field, we always talk about getting the supporter section up and running. You have any ideas you're looking at this year, or is it kind of just a work in progress still?
It's a work in progress still. We are only in September. I gotta mentally chill out real quick. Focus on school.
This guy, political answer from Lucas Francis. Oh my goodness. Focus on school.
Education is important.
Never thought I'd hear see the day where Lucas Francis is saying I gotta focus on school before soccer. Oh my goodness. Lucas, since we've spoken, or I mean maybe we have spoken but we haven't talked about it on the show. You've been to a lot of places, you've seen a lot of things with an MLS, USL, yada yada yada, the list goes on. Any cool things you've seen so far, like over the summer, kind of headed into the school year?
I mean, over the summer, I went to MLS All-Star in Columbus, and honestly, shout out Columbus. That's one of, like, the best soccer cities. Like, it was nice, like, to go to a city and, like, they actually really care about their team. Like, New York is great. I love the Red Bulls to death, but, like, it just doesn't compare, especially in a city like Columbus where, like, you have the professional hockey team and you have Ohio State, but there's not really, like, Columbus Crew is the only team winning championships there. So, like, it's just, like, really cool to see. It kind of reminded me of, like, Portland a little bit. Yeah, I think that was probably, like, the coolest experience. I would love to go there on a MLS Cup night or Eastern Conference Final. I bet the vibes there are just electric. You can even see it in, like, the Leagues Cup games when they were in the final.
Yeah, I would love to go to Columbus. I'm actually only a couple hours away right now, so, like, 3 to 4 hours. So I've thought about it, but if the U.S. Yeah, if the U.S. come to town, I'll go. That's my deal.
They probably will. I bet they will.
Yeah, they never come to, like,
they always come to Cincinnati.
Yeah, Cincy and Columbus they go to a lot. And then lastly, just to backtrack again about the league. So you mentioned Stockade. Removing the East Conference, what away day would you like to go to the most? Hypothetically, we're away in the national championship game.
In the national championship game, I gotta pull up my list real quick.
I have mine.
Definitely Union KC. Away in Kansas City, the Kansas City barbecue. Catch an SKC game there. I have family out there.
That's fair.
They'll put us onto the best restaurants and everything.
Yeah, well, I'm going to say an answer, and I'm not even saying it because we're interviewing the owner of the team, who is Sonny Dalesandro, after this. But Tulsa Athletic, I think, in terms of a historical aspect, very rich, have some great fans. I love the fact they beat FC Tulsa. I just find that so cool.
I would love to go to a Tulsa Athletic game.
Yeah. And yeah, I think there's something about that club. Maybe it's the badge. Maybe it's the fact Mikey Mallon played for them that I really love.
Shout out Mikey Mallon.
Yeah, really. And then, of course, I mean, Napa Valley, going to Wine County would be pretty sick.
21, Chris.
Dude, I'm not going to say anything on this podcast today, but
I would appreciate it.
Some non-alcoholic wine, baby. But yeah, those are the two big games, and there's so many other ones. Rush, Silicon Valley, like some teams I've never really heard of prior to this. Oakland has a team. Bay Valley Suns looks pretty cool. There's some cool badges out there. But yeah, Lucas, end of the day, just super excited. Very, very, very happy to be in the league for clubs. And I'm excited to talk to Sonny. So future Chris, future Lucas, we'll catch you guys in a couple of minutes where we will be interviewing founder of the league, owner of Tulsa Athletic Club, none other than Sonny Dalesandro. What is going on, everybody? Chris Dailey, back with Lucas Francis, and now we are finally joined with Sonny Dalesandro, excuse me. So Sonny, super, super excited to be talking to you. You own, or the founder of the League for Clubs, you own Tulsa Athletic Club, huge name in U.S. soccer, so super excited to be talking to you today.
I am honored to be on. I've actually seen a couple of you guys' podcasts. I'm a soccer nerd. So, yeah, no, I'm happy to be on. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Super excited, and I'm honored that you you've seen it. I'm glad somebody outside of mom is watching it. Outside of me and Lucas's parents, I didn't know many people watch. So
someone other than my grandma.
Yeah, there we go.
I feel you. You know, I've seen yours. I've seen like Tallahassee does one. I kind of pop around, and it's kind of cool just to go into. Really, it's one of the best ways to get to learn about clubs and other communities. So kudos to you guys for shining a light on the club that's in your community. That's awesome. It helps raise attention and awareness, and soccer nerds like me can learn a little bit. Yeah. Learn which Scottish player to steal in order to win a championship, apparently.
Yeah, well, we won't talk about that, but we will talk about you dropping out of high school at 17 years old. It's a way to start. Can only imagine doing that. Yeah, but you signed with the Tulsa Roughnecks. So what went into that decision, especially at a time where soccer, I mean, the World Cup, had just happened, but it wasn't super, super huge yet in the States. So why'd you do that? And from there, can you talk a bit about your professional career?
Yeah, my parents hated that decision. No, I mean, I knew at an early age that, and it's actually one of my sort of regrets in life, is that I didn't work harder in school. So if there are younger people listening to this, like, it is important. I wear an apron for a living now. So stay in school and grind that out and learn to be good at things that you don't want to do. For me, there was a recognition pretty early on that, like, I wasn't applying myself or had any desire to apply myself academically, which again is a regret. But I, in lieu of that, decided to put everything I had into trying to become a professional, which was really hard in Oklahoma back then because, no player from Oklahoma, like that Tulsa Roughnecks team was kind of like a semi-professional team. They paid some guys, they didn't pay some other guys. For me, it was kind of the opportunity to go up, like to just raise my level. I have this conversation with youth coaches all the time that, like, you have to have desire, talent, or a system. Like, you have to have two of the three to really achieve something. And I can't, I'm sure my homies would say I was a good player, but, like, for me, where I really shined was I had a lot of desire to achieve. I was willing to, like, do whatever needed to do to get where I wanted to get. And I sort of created that system. I mean, you see academies now playing up in other leagues, like full-grown leagues, and you see it all the time in Europe. When a 17-year-old's good, they push them up with first teams, right? I mean, that didn't exist then. So in a weird way, I kind of created my own system. So I had the desire and the motivation, and then I kind of created a system to jump in with older players and get kicked around, and as a goalkeeper, see shots that move differently at a faster pace and adapt and grow. And that expedited my sort of learning curve, my learning arc. So that's kind of how I was able to achieve what I achieved there.
Yeah, awesome. And you played professionally in indoor soccer as well, which I might mention. I went to a Baltimore Blast game a couple years ago. I got hooked, and I've interviewed a lot of MASL players, interviewed Keith Tozer, who, of course, is the commissioner for the MASL. It's a super fascinating sport, and me and Lucas both play a lot of futsal. It's so cool to watch. So you're a goalie in that environment. How different is that compared to an 11v11 game, and how fond are you of those days playing indoor professional soccer?
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, Keith Tozer was my former coach. He was my coach in Milwaukee when I was there. I grew up as an outfield player, as a forward. And like you, when I was younger, I started going. Tulsa had a pro team for 1 year called the Tulsa Ambush when I was about 14. And I would go and watch the games, and I got hooked as well. I thought the pace was super cool. I mean, it's kind of this hokey Americanized version of the game, but it's undeniably entertaining too. So
they look fun.
And my coach was the coach of that team, so I had access to these guys, and I was just kind of like, I want to do that. I remember at the time Milwaukee had a guy named Jimmy Banks who played for the U.S. national team, so he had just played in the 1990 World Cup back in 91 or whatever. So I was like, oh my God, that guy played against Italy. Unbelievable. And then, I was a field player growing up. So for me, I'm not an imposing, back in the day, I probably listed as 6 foot and was 5'11". In my older days, I'm probably 5'10" and a half, 5'11". So indoor suited me as a quicker, more athletic goalkeeper, and one that had grown up being, a field player. So, I mean, goalkeepers are just other field players and indoor. So, that transition was good for me. I knew that was my best chance of sort of seeing where my ceiling was in the sport of soccer, whatever adaptation that there may be.
Yeah, I feel like for a second there, like indoor kind of like blew up, and like Landon Donovan went and played indoor for a little bit. Jermaine Jones, Tony Miola.
Yeah, so pre-MLS or just the beginning stages of MLS, you got to understand, like, it was money. Like, the money was decent. I mean, it may not sound like a lot to you guys or in the current day, but, Cleveland back in the day in the mid-'90s, Zoran Karic and Hector Marinero, those guys were making 150, 200 grand for like a little 6-month stint. And in the MLS, the minimum wage was, I think, 24 grand. So what you'd see a lot of guys who would play 6 months MLS, or it would have been the A-League was below MLS, and then USISL was below that. So you would see guys play 6 months there, buy a couch and a TV, throw it away, go play 6 months somewhere else, buy a couch and a TV, and throw it away. So it was really one of the ways that players could make year-round money, and indoor was a big part of that then. And the teams paid a little bit. So
yeah,
different times.
Yeah,
it was a different time.
It was. And to bounce off of Lucas, I don't know if you guys watched The Last Dance with the Chicago Bulls, Michael Jordan, huge ESPN show. The Chicago Sting was mentioned back in the 80s before MJ came around into Chicago. The Sting were outselling the Bulls, which is crazy to think about. No one would ever think that. But it is true that at one point, arena soccer, I mean, it was huge, and it's still going strong today. So there has been stability, which obviously is, the key to a successful business. And you have teams in Mexico, Canada, U.S. It's huge, and it is really cool to see. I know the Blast, like, they may not have a lot of fans, but those fans are, like, cult following fans, and that's the one thing that really stuck with me after going to a game.
Yeah, I mean, the Blast is such an interesting one because, when they first came, it was like the circus. It was this sport that just got invented, right? I mean, they were like, well, what do you mean you're just going to use some hockey boards and throw some turf down and goals might be worth more than one? And it's like, what are you talking about? But like some of those old teams, like they set the hook. Like I'm sure when you go to Blast games, there's probably some old school fans that are there that are just like, look, we support anything Blast and have for, 40 years. So that's awesome. I mean, I think it's like this really cool and important part of American soccer history because though it's a different iteration of the game, it allowed it to still exist here. When the NASL folded in the early to mid 80s, you had a lot of guys that, had played at Manchester United and had played at Boca Juniors and like all these huge clubs that were just kind of committed to being here. So it's like, I mean, there's a little bit of credit has to go to that indoor culture for giving those guys a place to play, giving those fans something to continue to support. And I mean, giving ownership groups a platform to continue to sort of fail, succeed, and learn. So, it's interesting that we're talking about it. I didn't think we would be, but that's super cool because it is. It's really important that that it had its day in the sun and allowed for the game to continue to grow here.
I will say Chris is good at bringing up things that no one thought that they would be talking about.
Yeah, let's get quirky. I like it.
So you achieved your dream to play professional soccer.
Yep.
And then you went out and you kind of got into the restaurant industry with your family before then rejoining back with buying a professional soccer team or semi-professional.
Right.
Like what kind of like, did you miss the games that way came back? Like, what factored into that?
Yeah, I haven't talked about this a lot. I talked about this on a jiu-jitsu podcast about 2 years ago, but I never liked the way my career ended. I wasn't, that generation, sort of the mid 90s, there wasn't a sports psychologist on hand if you were struggling with stuff. And I wasn't managing pressure very well. And I sort of I got in my own head and sort of played my way, or didn't play my way out of a career, which is fine. We don't always get the ESPN 30 for 30 sunset ending, right? I mean, it's a fact. Like, there's a reason those are all great, is because there's not a lot of them, and those are really compelling stories. So when my career ended, I was living in Tulsa, and my father and I had started up the restaurant, and I went to a game. It was, I think actually USL was in charge of indoor for 1 year, which is weird. It had to have been like 2010, 2011, something like that. And Milwaukee had a team, and Wichita, both two my old teams had teams in the league. So I went up to watch Milwaukee play Wichita because some of my old teammates had come back and were playing. And after the game, I went down in the tunnel, was talking with a few of my old teammates. They're like, "Hey, our backup goalie's not very good. You should come in. You should come in." And it didn't work that year, but I think the following year there was the opportunity for me to get fit and give it a go, right? So I started working with a goalkeeper trainer and getting fit, and I was like, I'm gonna rewrite this chapter. I'm gonna face this fear of mine in my life that cost me something that I loved so much, and got fit. I was working my butt off, was playing in some local games, and was starting to like feel comfortable again, like walking in at that level and being like, okay, I know what to do. And I want to say we lost a dishwasher at the restaurant, something super unromantic, but it forced me to look at, like, wait, you're going to go and try and live in Wichita for $1,200 a month to change your own personal story. It's like your business kind of needs you, like, and that realization was like a really harsh one, but it was like, it's time to kind of let that part go for you. And on the playing side. And so I think it was a weird sort of way to say goodbye and realize that, like, in my life, in my career, it ended in kind of a lame way. But what can you do with that? And what I did with that was I used it originally in other ways in my life to, like, motivate myself so that I could be, successful in negotiations or in anything else that came up that was sort of a competitive nature. And then I was watching what Chattanooga was doing back in 2011, 2012, just like an amateur team, getting 2,500, 3,000 fans, which was unheard of at the time. I was like, you know what? I've been around some organizations that have worked and that have not worked. I want to try to apply that knowledge. And that just became this really cool plug-in in my life for what I wasn't able to achieve on the field originally. It was kind of like, I can get all this competitive shit out, by bringing a team here and outworking every other ownership group, every other landscaping crew. Like, I was like, I'm going to do it all. I'm going to be somebody that is difficult to beat. And that mentality that I was not able to connect with in my personal playing career is going to be a monster in this endeavor. And so, yeah, I got with a guy I grew up with. He's a local doctor in town, a local sports medicine doctor. We grew up playing together, and his wife said, well, if this is your midlife crisis, it beats getting a motorcycle. So after that, we were in, and that's kind of how Tulsa Athletic was born, and how I transitioned, my own personal career failures into something, something where I could still give back in the community of soccer.
That is
Actually,
awesome. Yeah, Lucas, you go.
now can you just talk about how like how that first season was, like starting off pretty hot off the gates, like attendance wise, and just your community supporting it really well, especially with like a competing USL team.
Yeah, they weren't here yet. That's where it gets weird. The first year, 2013, was mayhem. I mean, it was absolute madness. I tell this story all the time, but there's a thing in plumbing called a lift, and it's like what removes everything out. And it broke the day of the game. And we were like, man, we're going to have a bunch of fans here, we hope. And I remember running around the stadium doing all of these things, getting ready for the game, like just everything. It was like an 11,000 seat minor league baseball stadium that we had taken over.
Wow.
That we basically just did everything. I mean, I was the janitor, the landscaper, the painter, the electrician, everything you can think of. I did in that old facility. But I remember hearing that this guy be like, I don't know why we're fixing this. There's not going to be 50 people here tonight. And the one, can I cuss on your show? I think I already did cuss.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, it's all right.
But
we're 18.
Yeah, I remember him saying, like, I don't know why we're doing this. There's not going to be 50 people here. And the one side of me was like, it kind of brought back those fears of my playing. Like, oh my God, has this been a mistake? Is this guy right? And then like the lesson that I was trying to teach myself kicked in. I was like, fuck you, dude. Like, this place is going to be prime. And if I got to jump in a vat of shit with you in order to get that lift working, I'll do that too. Like, I'll do anything for this club. And it was just this moment kind of where I became who I've become for the club, where it was like, you can tell me that one person's going to come or 10,000 people are going to come. I'm going to be the same dude. And if I got to wear a suit or if I've got to swim in shit, I'll do either one so that this place is ready, that the players are ready, the coaches are ready, that everyone's ready. And that's going to be the mentality of this club. And 4,000 people showed up that night. And we scored a diving header in the 89th minute to win 3-2. And I was like, you know what? That's who you are. Don't ever forget that.
That's your 30 for 30 too, by the way. The diving.
Yeah, maybe. Just Sonny Dalesandro swimming in shit and wearing suits.
It kind of sounds like Shawshank Redemption. I don't know if you guys ever watched that. My favorite movie. But yeah, crawling through a pile of shit. So anyways, for you, after all of that, and we're just going to fast forward a lot here. So the past 10, 11 years, you've done a lot of amazing things with the club. We talk about the NPSL winning the national championship with our guy, Mikey Mallon from FC Monmouth. You kind of got into a bit of a battle with the Oakland Athletics about the name of the club, which is another crazy story. You beat FC Tulsa, the professional team Lucas had mentioned in the U.S. Open Cup. There's the whole story with Hicks Park, everything that went on with that, and just how much you did for it. So I know a lot of stuff just summarized right there, but what do you think from an ownership perspective and a behind the scenes perspective do you credit for having so much success on the pitch with everything that I just mentioned, and even off the pitch with all the fans that you brought in and a community that you've really rallied together there in Tulsa?
So what do I give the credit for those things?
I mean, maybe if you want to brag about yourself a little more too, but
no, because it's a good question. We have volunteers that work for the club who, I mean, some days they outwork me even. Like, they buy in. I mean, they are incredible. Dan DeVore is our general manager. He's a volunteer. I mean, the dude is a savage. Like, he is. I get to the game. I get to the field. We had a UPSL game yesterday. Like, he was there a couple hours before I was, and that's not uncommon. We have, people that do graphics, people that do media and PR. Like, I mean, we do our best to operate like a professional club, but, we have a $0 payroll on field and a $0 payroll off the field. So, I mean, in terms of credit, our volunteers are, they're I'd say they're worth their weight in gold, but that's not true. They're worth way more than that. There's everyone on the playing side's always kind of bought in here. I think when you set the tone, when people look at like, hey, the general manager and the owner are in there scrubbing toilets, or I was filthy yesterday for the game because I had mowed it on the riding mower and was blowing everything off and weed eating and stuff because I wanted the place to look nice for the game. But I've always thought when the other team arrives and they're like, who are those dirty homeless people? And they're like, oh, that's the general manager, the PR director, and the owner of the club who have been like shoveling water off of a field to get the pitch ready. I always am like, oh, we got these boys tonight. Because our boys know it. Our boys know what that does, in my opinion, is it creates a culture of like, you can't really take a play off, or, if you pull out of a tackle in front of a general manager who's been, mowing the field all day. Exactly. And me has cooked everybody breakfast and done the kits and everything like that. It's like, set the example of the willingness to outwork the person across from you. And I think that's contagious a little bit. So a lot of our successes are volunteers, creating that culture, buying into that philosophy. And yeah, I think good things follow when people work that hard at something that they believe in.
Yeah, 100%. And you mentioned working hard for something you believed in. That's kind of been the moral of and the theme of everything you've done, but also continuing to do now with the league for clubs. So after a very turbulent, a year now with everything that happened with the NPSL and Tulsa Athletic club, and kind of branching away from the NPSL, going to the UPSL, you've been one of the founders of this new startup league called the League for Clubs. So when did this initial idea come about? How did you get involved with it? And just, how has this process been so far for you?
Well, I've always liked to apply myself in a way where I can hopefully make things better or find productive solutions for problems that exist, right? So when things started getting squirrely and weird in the NPSL, when the commissioner started appointing board members instead of having free and fair elections, I mean, it's America, for the love of Christ, and kicking off board members that they thought might jeopardize, I don't even know, the power of being a commissioner of that's pathetic to me. I love soccer and leagues are important, but the idea of holding on to a power position in 4th division lower league soccer, to me, that's kind of just sad. So, there were several initiatives. You had Eric Housley on earlier. He put together an NPSL reform letter that was like, hey, here are some things that I've identified that if we find a solution for, can make this league better. And they fined him and suspended him a sizable chunk of money. And I think a 5-year suspension. It's for what? This man went out of his way to do some work that you yourself should have been doing with the idea of making something we all care about better. And it was met with hostility, and it was, to me, it proved a point. It's there isn't going to be a productive solution here. And rather than investing energy and emotion in trying to find that productive solution, it's time to just admit it. That girl broke up with you, buddy. It's time to move on. And once we did that, then we were able to start to apply the energy where we're investing in holding off something that was trying to take us down and destroy us, and apply it to building something new and beautiful with other people who have been successful club owners in the United States. I mean, what Eric Housley does in Napa is fantastic. Andrew in Atlantic City is amazing. I mean, Dennis Crowley literally wrote the playbook for if you want to have a lower league team. Here's what I do. Here's what's working. Here's what's not working. there have been dozens and dozens of people who have very good clubs who have said, that's what did it for me. Like, that was, for me, my Chattanooga, that was just me looking at something. Dennis showed everyone how that worked. So for a person in the soccer landscape of that caliber to realize that something's going wrong and that there's the necessity for something better, that speaks volumes, in my opinion. So, yeah, I mean, it's a healthier place for me. Just like I said, it's much better to wake up in the morning and be excited about what I can build on that day and who I can get involved and work with on that day than it is to wake up knowing, oh, I need to get ready for like a federal lawsuit, or what are they going to attack next that I have to preemptively try and be ready for? Because the things they attacked in our club were unfounded, unfair. And I mean, you read the Forbes article. It's all right there. It's like, these are personal issues. Like, you're attacking clubs over personal issues, which is petty and childish. And more than anything, if it was just they were attacking me, that's one thing. Like, I'm a man. I'll stand up for whatever I want to stand up for. But when you start attacking something that means something to the people in my community, we got a problem then. So, yeah, I may have veered off your question there a little bit, but yeah, the League for Clubs, I think, is an answer for when something couldn't be fixed and a productive solution needed to be found in lieu of that. And that was kind of the genesis of the idea. And I couldn't be happier to be working with the people that I'm working with. I spend about 7 hours a day on the phone with Eric Housley from Napa Valley.
I mean, and for a new league, it's gotten pretty well reception. So, like, with all that, like, how anxious are you, like, for the league to start up? It's like, we're still months away from the first kickoff.
Yeah, the starting point isn't like a priority for me right now. I want to be able to tell the story to more and more people. I want to get more and more clubs involved. Things like this are scary for clubs. Anytime that there's a new thing, it's like, am I going to leave something I'm familiar with for a new thing? And I try and say, hey, look, I did that thing you were doing in that place you were doing it for 12 years. So if anyone knows about it, it's me. But I understand that it's scary. Change can be scary, and it can be difficult. But yeah, I think that's the priority for me, is just getting more and more good people from the soccer community involved with this project will ultimately render really, really good results. So my focus is less on like that first weekend in May. Don't get me wrong. When it comes March, April, and we're team building and stuff like that excitement will be there. I know from doing this for a dozen years that's going to be a big part of it. But right now we're, it's pretty much my league hat all day long, in trying to grow it, have the necessary conversations and create something that's not just some weird one-off or a reaction to being mistreated. I want it to be something that's sustainable and stands the difficult task of being successful in the United States soccer system, because I'm sure, as you fellas are aware, we've seen a lot of teams come and go. We've seen a lot of leagues come and go. It's not easy to do. It's not set up in a way for things to succeed, unfortunately. So in order to be successful, you have to go above and beyond and sort of be that difference maker.
Yeah, 100%. I actually have a few things to comment on as well that you spoke about.
Yeah.
One's the whole Dennis Crowley article. I remember seeing that in like 7th, maybe even 6th grade, before I hit puberty or right now, my voice was still squeaky. And I remember thinking I could start a team, and I was like, if I get some investors, I always dream big. And looking back, I'm like, what am I thinking? I can't imagine my little sibling starting a freaking soccer team. But I was able to go on some calls and try to pitch this to some people, and it was all through Dennis, though, and that was such a great part, and that's a big reason I got into lower league soccer, and that was exactly the time FC Monmouth started, and from its infancy, I've been going to the games, and then, of course, now the past couple of years working for them in the media side. And now, as for the league and FC Monmouth, we are super excited to join, especially after talking to you right now, like way more even amped because, of course, as you mentioned, there's some questions, the sense of familiarity that comes with, the NPSL. But, I mean, everybody here is in it for the right reason, and that's something we always talk about, and they're in it to grow the game, and that's exactly, our bread and butter, and that's what we want to do in Monmouth County and continuing to grow the club to new heights. So it's definitely a step in the right direction, and we are just curious if you could just tell anything to our viewers just to wrap up here. I mean, how excited you guys are to have FC Monmouth and just anything that the league, and I know you mentioned it just aims to provide and, really do here in both, a grand scheme of American soccer, but also in Monmouth County.
Yeah, so I didn't know Jocko very well going into this. I know a lot of people. I knew who he was. We may have shook hands at an owners meeting or something like that. Andrew from Atlantic City knew him better than I did, but it became really apparent in our early dealings with them that there's a lot of ambition within the club. And I mean, I don't know what he shared about publicly with some of the designs they have going forward for what they're trying to do there. But I think that all the right questions are being asked. I think that what the goals are for the club will be achieved. And when those goals are achieved, I think that, and again, I just trying not to speak too specifically because I don't know what has and has not been shared in terms of FC Monmouth, but having had the conversation I've had, I do know that if the club accomplishes what they're trying to accomplish, and I think that they will, I think that it's going to be a little bit of a template for clubs across the country to look at, to say, oh, I can bring an elevated version of like amateur soccer or whatever to my community. And I think that that's so important. So I think that, I can't speak competitively. I don't know you guys' conference. I know the area pretty well. There's always great players in the Jersey and New York area. So, you guys go sift through the players you're going to get or whatever. So I'll leave that there. But more than that, what I was made aware of in dealing with the club is like, oh, there's a really switched on owners group. They are very quick to identify things and to be a part of solutions in making a system better. And I think that, again, for what you guys are doing, I think that there's going to be, I think FC Monmouth is going to be one of these really cool ones that Jocko's going to end up being on the phone 35 times a year explaining how he was able to do what he's trying to accomplish with the club. And another little part of that too is early on, he asked to jump on a call with Eric Housley and I from Napa and just said, hey, we're looking to do this. How would you guys approach this? And we went over some different business structures and strategic plans and stuff like that. But that unto itself, it may sound silly, but conversations like that are why the League for Clubs is in place. We want to connect other owners so that there's shared best practices, so that there is, the sharing of networks, all sorts of shared things. Because that's how you grow. Is you look at, hey, where are we struggling? Let's identify that. Let's look where in the league there are people that aren't and what they're doing to not struggle, and let's have those conversations. There wasn't even a directory in the NPSL. You would have to call somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody to figure out, hey, where did the Lubbock Matadors get their costume from? Like for the biggest things or the littlest things, you should always have access to other owners who do what we do in order to be able to ask questions and to learn. And when the ability to learn is gone, it's like, well, what are we doing here? So, yeah, Monmouth's asking the right questions. I think they're going to accomplish the right things, and those are going to be big things. And I think you guys are going to have a great season next year. I'm excited to go present you guys with a national runner-up trophy next year.
Runner-up.
Yeah.
If we get Mikey back, it's any man's game. We'll see. But I'm super excited. And listen, you mentioned there's some good Jersey kids out there. We have a lot of good guys playing at Rowan, all throughout the country right now. We're going to do a big college update podcast, hopefully soon. And as you could probably tell, I'm actually in college in my dorm right now, so I don't have the greatest setup. But I'm super excited again, and everything you said is just awesome. I know with FC Monmouth having us join the WPSL, we're going to have a lot of double headers, which will be good, and good for me and Lucas. Double the work, double the experience, which should be very fun this year. Yeah, but again, Sonny, I know Lucas will speak next, but we're super blessed to talk to you today.
Dude, what you guys do is awesome. Like, I was going to let you end the podcast. I want to end your podcast. What you guys do is so important, to take time out, to give attention, and to educate people about clubs at this level. It's fantastic. Don't stop what you're doing. It's really important. Yeah, good luck. Stay out of trouble.
Thank you.
All right, boys.
Thank you. You hear that, Lucas? That's all for our interview with Sonny. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow us on Instagram at We Are Monmouth and all other social medias to stay in tune with what's going on around the club during the off season. And as always, Vamos Monmouth.